Friday night Smackdown is over. Everything is done. So let's talk about what happened on this week's episode of Smackdown. Now, if you are new here, you have stumbled yourself upon the Joe Hall Wrestling YouTube channel. Make sure to go down below, drop a like on this video, and while you're down there, press that subscribe button and press the bell as well so you get notified every time I upload, which is daily. So make sure you don't miss out on daily wrestling videos. So, at the start of this week's episode of Smackdown, we actually got an injury breakdown of everyone who was injured in the Men's Survivor Series War Games match, which we now know is Bronson Reed, who has a broken foot after that nasty tsunami off the top of the cage. Tonga Loa actually tore his bicep, which surprised me, but it looked nasty. He's had to have surgery on it, so fair play. And Jimmy Uso has actually suffered a broken toe. Now, when I heard that Jimmy Uso had suffered a broken toe, I didn't expect it to be that bad, but after watching the clip, his foot bends backwards. It's horrendous. It's awful. So I hope all of them get well soon and wish them a very speedy recovery. Now, after this, we did see the Bloodline enter the arena. Now, the Bloodline obviously pissed after losing at Survivor Series War Games, attack Apollo Crews out of nowhere, and then kind of try to get ambushed by security. It doesn't work. I continue the beat down on them as well, and the Bloodline stand tall. To actually open the show, though, we did have Cody Rhodes doing a little promo in the ring, only to be interrupted by Chad Gable. Now, Chad Gable was the hometown hero, or hometown zero, I guess you could say. And they had a little back and forth promo off where Cody talked about the parallels between them. He said, Shorty G, you're looking at Stardust. And he said, the difference between us about him going on to achieve what he needed to achieve and Chad Gable constantly failing. And, he said, who are you going to blame it on this time? Is it going to be Brutus? Is it going to be Ivy Nile? Is it going to be Julius Creed? So that was a really good promo. Really predictable, because I did predict it in my preview. I said Cody Rhodes would open the show, and I said he'd get interrupted by someone. I wasn't sure who, but I'm glad it was Gable. But that set up a main event match for later on in the show. Again, exactly how I predicted. We then got the announcement that the transfer window is now open, so superstars can trade between Raw and SmackDown. This is going to be interesting, and I think the pure and simple reason for this is ahead of Raw moving to Netflix. I mean, we heard when Raw was going to Netflix that Netflix wanted this superstar and that superstar and this superstar. So this is probably just a way to get them on the required brands while having it make sense in story. So, yeah, fair enough. It is what it is. Hopefully we'll get some exciting changes. Next, we had the Women's United States Championship qualifying bracket tournament match, whatever. Now, Tiffany Stratton would get the win, as I predicted, by pinning Elektra Lopez, as I predicted. Overall, it was a decent match. Nothing special, nothing to talk about, but Tiffany Stratton advances, and yeah, we all love Tiffany Stratton. I mean, the pop that she got after winning was quite incredible. She's very hot at the minute. In another backstage segment, we would find out that the Street Profits had been attacked ahead of their tag team title clash with the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, who attacked them? Well, we don't know yet, but then Johnny Gargano would come and step in and say, look, I don't want to be that guy, but if you need an opponent for tonight, well, you can face DIY for the titles if you want. And that would then set up the tag title match for later on in the night, DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Following on from Bianca Belair accusing Piper Niven of being the one who attacked Jade Cargill, we seen Bianca Belair versus Piper Niven. I might just be the only guy who feels like this, but I really don't care about this story. I don't care that Jade was attacked. I don't care that Bianca wants to find out who did it. It's really disinteresting to me, so this match, it was just boring to me. I don't mean to be that guy. I really don't care about this story. I know a lot of people love Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. They're just not my cup of tea at all. But coming up after that, we had, as I anticipated in my preview, LA Knight coming out and demanding a rematch with Shinsuke Nakamura after Shinsuke Nakamura beat him at War Games. Now, something that surprised me was that Andrade would then come out and insert himself into the US title picture. Now, honestly, I think this could be really interesting if we see Shinsuke, LA Knight, Andrade triple threats for the US title. It would be great, but I'm just not massively interested in this picture. I look over at Raw, and what they're doing with the IC title is just so much better than what's going on SmackDown with the United States Championship. I think the United States Championship has been quite disinteresting, at least to me, for a good couple of months now. But this would all get interrupted by the Bloodline. The Bloodline would come out and attack LA Knight and Andrade. Interestingly, they would leave Shinsuke Nakamura alone and allow him to leave the ring of his own free will after he was spewing out some black goo. I don't know, but that was quite interesting, and I quite like that they didn't let the Bloodline go after Shinsuke, because it keeps him looking strong. Again, he's just won a title. The worst thing you could do is literally the next episode of TV have him come out and be laid out by some people who are at the top of the card. I get they're at the top of the card, but it doesn't mean you can't have him look strong as a champion. And I really hope that Shinsuke is the guy to kind of make the US title mean something again, because it hasn't for a little while, as I said. Now, after laying out LA Knight and Andrade, Solo Sikoa would cut what is arguably the promo of his life, where he would declare that even though his team lost, that doesn't mean that he is weak, that doesn't mean that they are weak, and that he is still the tribal chief. So that was a great promo, and going from great promo to great matches, we would see DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns next. Now, honestly, this match was great, but again, something happening exactly as I predicted. Johnny Gargano would turn heel. He would low blow Chris Sabin in front of Alex Shelley. Again, this whole mentor thing of, oh, Alex Shelley was my mentor. It's been building for a while, and I knew that Gargano was going to turn on the Motor City Machine Guns. I know a lot of people were expecting him to turn on Tommaso Ciampa and have that little feud. I think people were just kind of hoping for it more than actually thinking logically about it. But we now have heel DIY, and DIY would actually pick up the win and are your new tag team champions. And now we have more backstage segments where Michael Cole would interview Kevin Owens from the comfort of his rental car. This was quite an interesting thing, but honestly, it was a great little interview, to be honest. I mean, it kind of solidified that Kevin Owens, you know, he's backing himself, that he is in the right. And interestingly enough, we had him talk about Sami Zayn and say, well, you know, Sami Zayn teaming with Roman, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. So, again, there's a lot of interesting feuds coming from this, and I do think this is going to build towards potentially seeing Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins face off against Sami Zayn, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes. I think that is a match that is going to be built towards. It's interesting for sure. We also had another backstage segment where we've seen Gunther on SmackDown ahead of a possible trade to SmackDown. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of this. I do like Gunther on Raw, but if it happens, it happens. What can you say? You can imagine that Netflix are going to want Cody Rhodes on Raw, so if you do that straight swap for world champions, it makes sense. And finally, we get to the main event where we would have an amazing Cody Rhodes versus Chad Gable match. Honestly, it was a phenomenal match, and they are both such great talents. I think Cody Rhodes, even in my overall underrated video, I know I called Cody Rhodes overrated, but he does consistently put on top tier matches, and Chad Gable is the definition of underrated. He is phenomenal. He is great. Now, ultimately, Cody Rhodes would pick up the win after delivering a brutal crossroads to Chad Gable. But after the match, of course, as I predicted in my preview, Kevin Owens would come out and attack Cody Rhodes. Now, for this episode of SmackDown, I think there was ups, I think there was downs. I think overall it kind of worked out average, and if I'm giving it a rating, it gets a solid 6 out of 10. I think there was good things, I think there was bad things. I think there was more good than bad, but I enjoyed it. It is what it is. I think it was quite predictable, is what I will say. And if you don't agree that it was predictable, then like I said, go back and watch my SmackDown preview. It was the last video on this channel, and you'll see I got pretty much everything spot on. So it is what it is. But that is going to about wrap things up for today's video. If you have enjoyed it, like I said earlier in the video, make sure to go down below, drop a like and subscribe. And while you're down there, let me know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode of SmackDown. We will be back with a brand new video tomorrow though, so I will see you all next time. Goodbye.